What happens when a generations long beloved childhood IP enters the public domain? The Hundred Acre Wood becomes the site of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It is murderous bear season in cinemas across the country, and I'm not talking about cocaine, I'm talking about poo. In very real life, Winnie the Pooh is no longer protected by our wonderful copyright laws, and in an instant, Reese Frank Waterfield was ready with a low-budget, murderous horror story involving the iconic generational characters. Blood and Honey went viral the minute the trailer came out, with some outrage at the bastardization of the bear that they grew up with, and others, at the very least, morbidly curious about what this cinematic experience would be like. Look, the trailer does not lie. Winnie the Pooh's first foray into the horror genre is extremely low budget, and not confusingly so. The rumor is that this movie was made for something like $100,000. But watching it, you'll wonder, what could they have possibly spent six figures on? Don't get me wrong, there are certain shots in the movie that look great, almost to the point where I couldn't believe it, because then there are other moments where the production value is strikingly low. I mean, it's like a kind of high budget adult film, very early 2000s era, or really nice artsy horror gore. It's kind of amazing, but it's not that difficult to figure out which parts of the movie the filmmakers were kind of in love with and loved shooting, and which parts they were just doing because they had to fill 90 minutes. The movie has a pretty great opening sequence where we learn what the premise of the film is. This all takes place before the opening credits, so I'm not counting it as a spoiler. What happens here is Christopher Robin has grown up in the 100 Acre Wood with all of his animal friends. This occurs in the universe of the Winnie the Pooh that we all grew up with. But what we learn is that at some point, Christopher Robin, much like Jackie Paper, had to grow up, and Christopher had to go to college, leaving his animal friends, who are described here as like hybrid creatures, in the 100 Acre Wood to fend for themselves. Well, I guess the domestication process of hanging out with Christopher Robin all those years did these hybrid animals no favors, because they had no way to survive. They were in that forest wasting away to nothing. They could find no food. They could do no hunting. Winter came. It got extremely cold. They got extremely hungry. And in order to survive, the group of animal friends had to eat one of their own. And we find out that over the winter, they ate Eeyore. And eating Eeyore in order to survive was so traumatic to these animal hybrids that they developed a murderous rage for humans of all shapes and sizes, and went back to their roots as animals, swearing never to talk again. I love the premise. Clearly, I was sold on the premise, because that's why I went to see the movie. But even watching this opening sequence, I was in. You'll be in. But I need to tell you that that's all this movie is the premise. There is nothing, not one single thing in this movie beyond the premise. And maybe the bastardization of some cartoon characters that we grew up with, showing a macabre side that we've never seen before. As I'm sure you've seen in the trailer or on the posters, Pooh and Piglet are clearly wearing masks in this movie. I'm pretty sure that the masks are actually available for purchase. The masks look like masks. And the movie might have actually been scarier if we had been led to believe that these were human beings that were wearing like rabid Winnie the Pooh and Piglet masks. But we're not. We're made to believe that these are not masks. These are the antagonist's actual faces, and it's never quite explained why the exact same expression is painted on their faces no matter what happens throughout the entire movie. The movie has a ton of gory kills. It's got some nudity. I don't know if I could say whether the gore or the nudity was necessary or mattered, because I don't know that anything mattered. I'm pretty sure watching this movie that not one thing actually mattered. It's maybe more nihilistic than what they were going for, but I also don't think that the filmmaker or anybody involved was taking themselves more seriously than they necessarily should have. I'm not sure that they ever intended for anything here to matter. I don't think that they really meant to go beyond the premise, because they didn't. There's a lot of shaky cam, a lot of shadows in this thing, but I also think that as I was watching, some of it was probably to distract from the fact that if the shots were steady, we would clearly see that they're wearing masks. Blood and Honey is in limited theaters right now. I was lucky enough that it was playing. I don't know if lucky is the word, but I was lucky enough that the movie was playing in a theater pretty close to my house. It's probably going to be streaming soon as well. My advice would probably be wait till the movie is streaming, invite a bunch of friends over, bring some drinks, bring some snacks, some edibles, snacks, that is, and enjoy this movie with friends. I bet you will get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and you will probably laugh at extremely inappropriate moments and visuals that you would never think that you would laugh at. All right, now let's get to some spoilers. If you don't want to see the spoilers, you can flash to the next chapter. Okay, so where the hell was Owl? I understand that Tigger was not in this movie because apparently the Tigger IP is not yet public domain, but they set up Owl at the beginning of the movie, and there was no payoff of Owl. Unless I missed something, where was Owl? I had so many questions. Like, how did Pooh and Piglet get chloroform? How did Pooh learn to drive? Why was it that Pooh was invincible when being attacked by 4 strong men, all of whom were hitting him with blunt instruments? So clearly they are coming back for a sequel. I think if you watch the movie, you can tell they're intending to do a sequel, and I actually think that they're already signed on to do one. That, to me, is why Christopher Robin survived, and that's why Winnie the Pooh survived. See, Christopher Robin, I think, in this franchise that is being built, is the Jamie Lee Curtis, while Winnie the Pooh is the Michael Myers. Except Michael Myers wore a mask, and in this universe, Pooh doesn't wear a mask. He has a mask resembling yellow bear head. Okay, that was it. I'm done with my spoilers. The filmmaker has announced that a sequel is already in production. They apparently hope to get 5 times the budget for the sequel that they got for this movie, which is still very inexpensive, but I would like to see what they would do with a bigger budget. You know, Terrifier and Terrifier 2 were 2 very different movies. Maybe Blood and Honey 2 is going to be completely different. Also, we may be dealing with a whole universe here, because not only are they working on Blood and Honey 2, but apparently they plan on doing a Bambi horror movie, as Bambi has also entered into the public domain. I think you can enjoy this movie. I don't think there's any reason not to. You just can't take it seriously. I don't think at any level the movie is meant to be taken seriously. I don't think it was ever meant to be taken seriously. I think Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, at its core, is simply a troll on the fine folks that created these characters. Look at what happens as time goes on. This is simply and truly about the gimmick. We are living in an era, we've been alive long enough, where we get to see beloved childhood characters in situations that the people that created these characters would never put them in. That's literally all Blood and Honey is about. But do you know what the true beauty of public domain is? If you think you can do a better Winnie the Pooh horror movie, do a better Winnie the Pooh horror movie. Nobody owns it anymore. I appreciate you guys watching the review. If you've got thoughts on the movie, leave them in the comments. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and if you know where I can find a Bambi mask, I've got some ideas.